Good evening, everybody.
Somebody say something.
Hi, I
There
already
we
said
go.
something. I did
Oh,
not.
And I'm trying to figure out how to change my name.
please.
Really, you don't like what? How you want to be Barbie?
No, I definitely don't want to be Barbie.
But you don't want to be hygiene.
What name would you like?
Well, you could spell the whole name Treasure out if you wanted. I don't know where that came from.
That's the trees.
You like my trees?
Trust.
I like my trees.
There.
If you click on the three dots in the upper right-hand corner of your frame,
Yeah, it'll
Yeah,
give you a
Change your
rename. It'll give
I
you a
am.
rename option.
somebody already did it, I think.
Oh,
I
thank
did.
you.
Okay. All right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Mary, all the council's here. So, one more minute, we'll get the show on the road. Thanks. Okay, let's call the March 25th, this March 25th meeting of the town council to order. First order of business is the agenda. I put a draft agenda in all the materials. However, the agenda, I hope, will be introduced. Well, go ahead and introduce. Somebody please propose the agenda be adopted.
I'll move.
I'll second. Oh, you can. Too late. I'll second. Sorry.
All right, so it's been proposed to adopt the agenda. I have some proposed changes, which you should be able to see. Adding the appointment of Bill Earl to the Historic Preservation Commission.
Mhm. Good.
And indicating that the stormwater infrastructure maintenance RFP, which is very important, nevertheless isn't ready for this meeting. So I'm going to defer that item to April 16th, when it will definitely not be deferred. So he said confidently. And I dropped a couple of, because we're dealing with this, I dropped a couple of things out of the mayor's report. So those amendments I propose. Are any other comments on the agenda? I see our town clerk is here. All right. Okay, if there's no discussion, then the amended agenda is before you. I didn't ask for the amendments. I get to amend the agenda too, but you guys have to approve it.
Mhm.
So all in favor of the amended agenda, indicate, please. Okay, that's unanimous. So we have everybody here, Kathy. We've just gotten to the agenda, which has been amended to what you're looking at, if anybody's, yeah, still looking at it. So we'll remove that now. Okay, so public appearances. Well, I thought we would have regular public appearances tonight. Anyone here on a matter not on the agenda is welcome to address the council. So, anybody? All right. So if there are no public appearances, we'll go on to the mayor's report. Town election update. So we're coming up to the closing of nominations. I know for a fact, I didn't hear from Nick, or I didn't contact him early enough, but nominated for town council was Philip Mento. And I think that Chris Grisham is
He's a
being-
yes.
He has been nominated. Okay, so that would have happened
Yeah.
today.
I got it this morning.
Right, and Chris was on this call somewhere. He came and
He's there. There he is. He's on
there he
mute.
is. Okay, see, too many squares. He's here. Yeah,
He's
there's-
on mute though, so.
Okay. And I don't know if anybody else has been nominated for council. For mayor, yours truly is again nominated. So that's currently the election situation. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
John, I believe I've been nominated again.
Oh, gee, thank you. I already have you elected.
I believe
see?
Let's let the process work.
Okay, absolutely. I don't know why I just flipped. Of course, Barbara's been nominated as well. So, all right. So that covers the current candidate landscape. Okay. Of course, the election is the day of the town meeting, which is Saturday, May 11th. And will be held pretty much the way we've now done it a couple of years. That is, you can vote in person in the council offices, or pick up a request by mail or pre-vote voting ballot and turn it in to the Board of Election Supervisors. The only other thing to report tonight, since this is sort of a interim meeting, is to remind you that I'm going to be away from April. Now it's sort of April 4th through the 11th. I think it is, keeping track of my own absence. Barbara will not be here part of that time. So the council, what we did the last time this happened is to appoint a second mayor pro tempore to assume responsibility here in town. I will be available by. I'm in the U.S. I'm just in Maine. But it's a good idea to have someone on site in case something really needs attention. So going to ask that we need to nominate someone for that. And I'm already forgetting who we did the last time. Was it Christine or was it Rob?
Christine.
Christine.
Well, good. Christine, who is unaccountably not running for a second term, can go out with her resume, can have she serves as a mayor pro tempore. So anybody want to second that?
Second.
Okay, Peter, any discussion? You'll be in town, right, Christine?
Who did the first?
Barbara. Christine,
Okay.
you'll be in town April 4th through 11. You have to, you're muted. You may not want to say in public, but
Sorry, I was on mute. I will not be in town for part of that time.
which part?
I will not be in town the 8th through the 10th.
Barbara?
Same with me. Yeah, we're all going to the eclipse, so I
Yep.
think that's why.
True.
I'm
That
going
is
to Ohio to see the eclipse.
Good. We're all praying for good weather too, because
Yes,
okay.
no
well,
cloud
Christine,
cover.
In that
I'll
case,
be in, I'll throw my hat in the ring. I'll be in
Yeah.
town.
There you
All
go.
right.
Peter,
So-
Because I need the
I
I
was-
need it for my resume.
okay. so Peter can see a partial eclipse from here, I think. He's in eclipse all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so so Peter's volunteering. Anybody want to nominate him? Let's just be formal about this.
This is Barbara. I nominate Peter.
Okay,
I'll second.
Christine, thank you.
Yep.
Second, any discussion? All in favor? All right, that's going to be unanimous.
Thanks, Peter.
So don't let the power go to your head, Peter, during those 7 days. Okay, thank you. Let's see. That's it for my report.
Yes.
So there was something else to report. Oh, yes. A few of us we're getting an update on Gaithersburg's, I should put it in here. This is the Gaithersburg bike path, bikeway update tomorrow.
Hmm.
From the planner who's in charge of their bikeway process. So I'm not sure. It's a progress report. They have more money to fund additional engineering planning studies, and they're checking in because, as you all recall, the connection to Brown Street, and they want to include in the proposal the bit from the commercial corner, which is where Gaithersburg ends, to Brown Street, and that depends on getting well, the best path, the widest path would be possible if the property owner, if Tatiana Bell would give the town an easement up to 8 feet, I think, about 5 feet. 5 feet would be the easement to construct, to add to the road right of way. So that's our contribution is to comment on what they propose to do and to arrange for this easement. So that's part of the reason they're certainly want to keep us in the loop to do that. And once we get the update, I will consult Sue Ellen about what sort of legal who can help us create the easement document. I'm almost certain she can. So and then we need to get to Tatiana to start, whatever process she's going to need to do that. Okay, so that really is the end of my announcements. I threw this on here. So let's move to the appointment of Bill Earl to the Historic Preservation Commission. I don't think he's here tonight. I didn't request that he be here. Bob, and he has attended a bunch of HPC meetings as well as Planning Commission meetings. Initially because the improvements to his property that he was interested in doing, and following that process out. And but since that project's been going, he's had continued interest. Bob is here. Bob Boers I think he's Bob B. Spoke with Bill, and Bill expressed interest in being on the HPC. He was on, as far as his property went, he was very impressed with the HPC's recommendations. He thought that it was helpful, very helpful to him. The process was went forward well, and he has a family interest in historic properties. He told me his grandparents lived in a house. I didn't exactly find out where, but it was built in the 1700s here in the US. The core of the house, of course, obviously the house had been enlarged. So he has an interest in historic preservation, and of course he moved to Washington Grove, which is important. The proposition, he had proposed to appoint Bill to a term, and I'm really remiss in that I didn't give you the term information, because all that happened today, by the way. So let me just come up with that information in a moment here. HPC terms, right? So
three.
that so this term will run through the terms are 5 years, or right? For 3 years. Anybody remember the 3 years?
I thought they were 3.
Yeah, I think they're 3. They're 3 years, and it would therefore run for essentially fiscal 25, 26 through 27. So it's a 3-year term for from now until 27. I believe that's the term that is being filled. Okay. Anybody?
Does that start as of tonight?
No, it would start as of the next meeting, April. The next meeting, I guess it is this month has come and gone, so it would be in April.
Okay.
The term is 12 months, but you can, fill a partial term. Okay.
John, this
Yes.
is Bob. Also, Samantha Suzich, also as the alternate, said yes today.
Yes, I got your email, but would like to talk to her. I didn't see any rush to do that, and we have another
Nope.
meeting
Okay, fine.
in a month. So I thought we would handle that separately, just because that was pretty good to get. I talked to Bill at length, well, not at length, but for a significant amount of time today.
Good,
Not that
thank
it's absolutely necessary, but I feel better when I do it. So, all right. Okay, does anybody have any comments on this? What we need is a vote. The council needs to approve the mayor's nomination. So, anybody have any thing they want to say about this? Okay, then we'll need a vote. All in favor of the appointment of Bill Earl? All right, that's unanimous. Bill is appointed. Yeah, and Bob, as always, thank you for identifying Bill as a volunteer. I have every confidence he'll be an active. Make active contributions to the HPC and to the town. Okay, right. All right, this brings us now to the ordinance 2023, the ordinance creating the permitting ADU on our residential zones. The last meeting, the council amended the ordinance as it was brought from the planning commission. And with those amendments, we gave a few more weeks for any commentary, comments on that. So tonight we are here, and it's now open to the council for further discussion. And the intention was to vote on the ordinance tonight. So, okay, maybe I'll just carry this forward a little bit more. There were two comments delivered to the council and me concerning the amended ordinance. One was from the HPC, which wrote a letter recommending that, once again, they had recommended before, and we really, I'm not sure whether Barbara and Peter and Georgette, you guys looked at and even looked at their recommendations, but
Yes, we did. We did.
So, all right. So, does someone want to address the HPC's recommendations, which I've put into a proposed draft, which what it would look like with their where they were recommending a modification of the on the ordinance, and that is here. So it all deals with the authority of the planning commission to condition approval on an accessory dwelling unit to with terms, with conditions that address compatibility with the existing structure and the neighboring structures. So let me put it up. I didn't put it up, so looking at it myself. Okay, so this is the document that the council approved. In red is the first modification, and as you can see, this falls under where it is allowed, it must satisfy the following: A through J, and this would be K. And this is what it would say. Everybody can read that. I hope everybody had a chance to look at this. It's only been available a day or a couple of days. So this is just a new paragraph in this condition. Then the same thing essentially is said twice more, one under the use standards. This is 6.12 down here, which would replace, actually modify, replace the D with the language again here in red. So if it does increase enclosed space, then again, the modification should be compatible, and the planning commission will base its recommendations, can do conditions, obviously they're based on the HPC's guidelines and recommendations. And essentially the same thing is here. It's with a detached accessory dwelling unit. Same thing, should be compatible with existing structures, neighborhood and historic district. And the planning commission can base its recommendations on approval on those criteria as well. Okay. If I've done a fair job of summarizing this, it needs to be proposed, it needs to be discussed. So
So this is Barbara. The HBC had submitted something a few months earlier, very similar to this. And our small subcommittee of Peter, Eva, Georgette, and myself, we did review that, and we did not include it because we did not agree that the HPC should, or the Planning Commission should have such broad, vast, general, and undefined authority. And we had this discussion in our meeting last time. So, this has come up again, even though we explained it last time. But this is very mushy language. It basically says the HPC can just decide, well, we don't like the way this fits in with, our view of the historic district or the historic view of the town. And we think the Planning Commission should turn down the permit on that basis. And, our small committee agreed that is not a good way to go. We believe that the ordinance, for one, it is clear, and I know the idea of mansionization came up, and the argument was made that this particular suggestion would somehow combat mansionization, but we have size limits on the on the ADUs. And there also is the language that we had in there before referring to the historic district and all of that. So we just don't agree that the HPC should have the final word on whether it's something is historic enough and then can get the permit refused on that basis. So that's kind of where we stand. I mean, I would not support this.
I just think it's fair to point out, as far as the HBC is concerned, I don't disagree with you, Barbara, because it is vague. But the way I was envisioning this is that the HPC makes recommendations. The Planning Commission, it's not oh, you won't do what the HPC wants, so we're going to reject this. Just like we've worked with the two subdivisions, it was just the person doing the development, the HPC and the PC all get together and they discuss what would be best in the best interests of the town. And so I'm just saying it's not as black and white as you're making it sound, because we've had some great success, and I'm totally for voting for the, as it is, just like we agreed before. But I really think the town needs to think about in the future, how do we protect our heritage and and I think the HPC has some really good points. You just need to, as you said, make it less squishy and give us a little bit more comfort.
Well, this does say, though, may condition approval on such terms, blah, blah, blah. So it is conditioning the approval. And if we want to do that as a town, I'm not saying, no way, no how, but then this is something that should come either before a hearing or a town meeting. This really just came in over the weekend. I only looked at it this afternoon myself. So residents are not familiar with the fact that this has been submitted, and they would not know that we are discussing this tonight. So if we pass this and they go to apply for an ADU and come to find out, oh, my plan is not historic enough and now it's being turned down, how did that happen? That's what I don't want to see. I mean, we can have a discussion.
I totally agree. I don't want this to be like at the last meeting where I said, because we're not accepting the 5 recommendations from RASIC, that we're rejecting them outright. And I think it's the same with this, is that we can revisit this when we want to in the future.
Yeah, well, and the ordinance does allow for this to be revisited. It requires it to be revisited in 5 years. And of course, it can be revisited earlier than that. And if there's a problem, that can happen. So, I think not including them tonight does not mean that it can never, ever, ever be included. But I think if we want to move forward, we should, in my view, move forward with what we have without additional recommendations. And in fact, John, you mentioned another comment that we received today was kind of the opposite of this, was kind of along the lines of, well, the structure should be compatible with the original dwelling, but maybe not for the whole neighborhood. So, I mean, there's definitely a difference of opinion on what these ADUs, what is compatible and what should be expected.
So let me make sure I understand the point both of you were making. The proposal is to enable the planning commission to judge a proposed construction, this is construction, expansion of space, whatever, well, either a detached unit or attached space and an increase in the existing building, to judge it among other, in addition to all of this building project setbacks, the blah blah blah, would be its effect on the existing structure's historic quality. Whether that, and that's generally been appearance. Obviously, that's something new. It's mostly the appearance. The HPC doesn't presume to, has never presumed to tell them how the inside should look. It's all about how does the outside look and what is the impact on the overall appearance of the structure compared to its neighbors and the area. So it's an option, and I'm a little bit. I just want to be sure to point out that it's another tool to look at modifying structures of historic value to the town. And Bob's here; he can probably say this a whole lot better than I can.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
How would this then affect building to better not ADUs? So if someone wanted to do an addition, do they then have different standards than an ADU, or is this going to be across the board? Any changes, and then where is that written? Because this sounds like this is for this, but it's a little bit more restrictive or potentially restrictive than someone putting an addition that's not an ADU or making some changes to the house.
Well, this ordinance only addresses ADUs. Just like
That's right.
The other case for HPC before historic consideration is subdivision. It only affects that. So anyone just modifying their house, not having an ADU, would not be impacted by this. That would
Right,
be,
but John, does that mean that, I mean, this language, I'm looking at D now, says the HPC has developed guidelines for review of additions and new construction. And actually, I don't know what those guidelines are. I would want to see like a link there or something, because I'm not sure what that's referring to. So that's too vague for me. And then it goes on to say this review will be the basis of recommendations for possible conditions of approval by the Planning Commission. So that sounds like a stronger hurdle to meet than if you're just putting an addition on your house. And we can't have two different, I mean, the HPC's role has to be the same, whether you're putting on an addition or an ADU. We can't have different levels of scrutiny by the HPC for those two different situations. And also, I think that this is, it almost strikes me as being like a tail wagging the dog thing, that there's a much bigger issue here of whether the HPC's authority should be expanded at all. And there are a lot of people in town who think it should not be at all. Other people think, well, with respect to certain particulars, maybe it should be. And I mean, everybody's got a different opinion, but I don't think that this ADU ordinance is, and getting it finalized, is the place to explore that much larger issue. And that's what we're doing here. It's all of a sudden we're giving the HPC more authority than we've done in the past. And it's a whole different topic for a different day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's not the HPC, it's the PC is getting the authority, not the HPC is doing the same role it's always had. It's the
but
PC.
I think Christine is making a good point, and we brought this up in our meeting, was that, well, this language is not in the ordinance for, it's not for additions, so why are we putting it in the ADU ordinance? And I agree with Christine that you know, if we were gonna put it here, we'd need to put it in the,
Yeah.
you know, for additions, and that's something for another day, and that's not what we're doing here.
That's what is that, why don't we just vote? Because I think we're all in agreement. You know, because we're beating the dead horse here and we're
Well,
punishing.
not at all.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true,
No.
Peter. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, there's some very good comments, and I was being, you know, you have to keep in mind, I was not expressing my own opinion. I was trying to explain the consequences.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think Christine, well, both Barbara and you, but Christine did a good job. All of you did a good job of saying that this looks like a expansion of the criteria by which the planning commission,
Right.
that point's correct, the planning
Mhm.
commission would scrutinize construction plans in town. And for that, that's really goes beyond the ADU issue. It impacts, it should be, you know, address all of that. That doesn't mean it's a bad idea, doesn't mean it's a good idea, but the argument that it, you know, just suddenly sticking it in here is probably inappropriate. So I think that point is, you know, has been made. And does anybody else have any comments then? I mean, I'm merely explaining what it is they propose. I'm going to let Bob have a say. Bob, you want to,
Yeah, you'll have to excuse me. I'm on 495 right now, but
oh,
not
gee.
driving.
Oh,
But
good.
yeah, I mean, the view that we had is to a certain extent expresses a lot of hesitations that people had with the AD ordinance to begin with. Is how are we going to ensure compatibility with the existing town and the existing historic district? So that expresses what actually is a big change that we're contemplating here with the ADUs, which is going from a strictly single family condition to a somewhat multifamily condition. So we're changing our use, we're changing our zoning. And so this was a response to that concern that people had, as we did, that this is a induces a higher risk to the character of the town than just an addition that somebody would put on. So given that that there's an increased risk, we thought there should be an increased response. So, and as Peter pointed out, it's really the planning commission that is being enabled to expand its powers beyond just the subdivision ordinance.
And I would just add one other thing, John, is that forgetting about the attached ADUs, because I don't care about that. But for the DDUs, the PC has us a little extra power when it comes to subdivisions. And you could look at the detached ADU as a subdivision. That's the way I was kind of looking at it. And well, okay, but you could look at it that way. And I don't want to have this argument now, but I think that this is something that we can talk about, you know, in the future. That's all.
Could I make some comments? This is David Stopak.
Yeah, of course, David. Let's make sure. Bob, did you have anything further at the moment?
No, go ahead.
Okay, David, sure.
So the way I heard Barbara characterize how this ordinance would work, I don't really think is correct. But I'd like to go back for a minute. People are saying this expands the HPC's power, but it actually is parallel to what the HPC does with a subdivision review. And, you know, and the Planning Commission talked about this. And my understanding was the Planning Commission actually agreed that this was more parallel to a subdivision review, in which this is what happens. So the HPC sees it first. We make comments on it and recommendations. Normally, you know, we get voluntary compliance. Mm-hmm. So what what the planning commission sees is the same thing that we recommended, or pretty close to it. I mean, it's not going to be every little tiny thing, and we're not going to be fighting over every little tiny thing. We make some broad recommendations. If the applicant accepts most of them, that's fine. That's not a problem. So what's going to happen though is maybe there'll be some disagreement between the HPC and the applicant about, you know, some issue with the renovation or with the detached structure. So then the planning commission has the ability to say, you know, we think the HPC is right. Why don't you do it this way instead of the way that you're thinking of doing it? And that's what's happened with subdivisions. And I mean, for instance, the Cater property, that subdivision was not something the property owner really wanted, but it protected the town. Or if you take the one, you know, the subdivision, the most recent subdivision was on Ridge Road where the second U is, and there it was totally, the applicant liked all of our comments and did them, and it improved the subdivision, as the PC will tell you. So this is not, and it's not saying, well, you can't do it. There's a set of conditions for the approval. And so it's saying, hey, do it this way instead of that way. It's not saying you can't do it. That's really not how the process works. That's a mischaracterization. So given that multifamily zoning is something that we haven't had for the whole time that we've had zoning in this town, which is 70 years, I think it's actually prudent to put this process in place. And what's not prudent and what's kind of crazy is to say, let anything go and not be able to have the historic perspective heard. That's all you're doing, is you're having it heard, and the planning commission is allowed to act on it. And the planning commission can act on it because that kind of stuff is in the comprehensive plan. And that's the planning commission's job, is to make sure that it's executed, that the comprehensive plan, you know, is kept to. So to say that this is radical and different is wrong, because we've already doing it, number one. And so the question is, what does it best apply to? Which process should we use? Not that we have a new process, because it's the same, it's a parallel process. That's all I have to say.
So I would like to clarify, not including these new provisions, these new clauses, does not mean anything goes. The ordinance is already pretty tight with size and footprint and setback and all of those things. It is not anything goes. So, you know, there is a lot of control there. And secondly, it is not open. It says that the approval can be conditioned on the HPC recommendations. And that's very problematic. And again, as we have said, if we're going to move in that direction, we shouldn't do it during this meeting tonight. We should have a hearing. We should let the whole town know that that's what we're thinking about doing, maybe even a town meeting. We should not do it in here when these are suggestions that have not even been seen by most residents. And John, also, Paula had submitted comments. I don't know if you were going to give her a chance to speak tonight as well. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I didn't.
But
I didn't want to lose that.
I took the bigger one first.
Okay.
Well, bigger one.
And just one other thing, I just want to say, the historic preservation stuff is in there. I mean, it's not like we didn't put it in there. In fact, you know, we had some questions about whether that should be there or not, because when you say should be compatible, what does that even mean? So there are a lot of questions about this, and to put this requirement in that the planning commission can condition the permit on the basis of the historical preservation review, that's really very just problematic.
So, right, Bob, you can't see this being on 495 and all. But I'm highlighting the D in the as it stands in the amended proposal.
Well, and the current D is crossed out here, so I think it's a little
That's because
confusing.
this is the proposed. This is what it would be if you don't add what you're seeing in red. Oops, how did that happen? I didn't even touch it.
The first D is what is in there now.
Yes, that's what I'm highlighting. So it does, in fact, it's not to put too fine a line on it, it looks to me like that the existing D without adding the HPC suggested language would empower the PC to object to an excessive construction proposal. That's what I think the existing D says. It doesn't specify that proposals can be conditional. That would not be allowed, but they could say, look, this is not in keeping with the construction guidelines, and you need to change it. So,
What happened to the language there? And should respect be compatible? What happened there?
There was a cross out there,
Yeah,
and
I
I
don't know
think
what
the
happened
fact that
here.
everything's crossed out now messed that up.
Oh, so but it is, yeah, because I didn't remember.
Yeah, the whole respect thing was
Got
changed. Be compatible with is what it
there,
should say.
Okay.
green.
There you go.
Green is the way it is, with the blue is the changes from the previous version.
Oh, I remember that, Barbara. Right. Yeah.
No,
No.
D is just I can show you the original one, but it's this
No, that's okay.
green D, which has.
Yeah. Those two phrases, that's not really what's important. They're basically the same thing. What's important is the Planning Commission has I guess you would call it the power. One of the functions of the Planning Commission is to implement the master plan. Okay, so the new language in there that's parallel to what's in the subdivision ordinance is that they will be able to condition, they be able to make conditions, and there's a set of conditions that they can make. In addition to those set of conditions, they can make conditions based on the HPC review if they feel that it's valid, and it helps implement the master plan. I mean, that's what the language is trying to do. And that's what the difference is.
Okay, so is there? I mean,
Yeah.
Is that correct, Peter? Isn't that correct?
To tell you the truth, I don't see the difference. I think that the original D does that just as well. The way
Yes,
I'm reading.
right.
I agreed with you.
Oh,
The two
yeah.
Ds are inconsequential.
So why don't we just go with let's move forward then.
All right. Does anybody? We've discussed the proposed HPC change. If I'm not hearing any proposal to further amend, then we'll move on.
I have a motion to amend. And this is the definition of household. I propose that we revert to what I believe was originally recommended, to adopt Montgomery County's definition of a household.
Okay, it's up here. It's here.
Yeah. And I think if you look at this, that's right. Yeah. If you look at the language of what is currently in the Washington Grove ordinances, it's really not consistent with the 21st century, particularly in a progressive town like Washington Grove and a progressive county like Montgomery County. First of all, I think that the addition of guardianship is important. One of the children in my household is we have a guardianship over Paige Snyder, Bill Robertson and Liz Robertson's granddaughter. And the current, I think, kind of out of date Washington Grove household definition would mean our household is out of compliance. Second, I think if you are not a married couple, but have, a long-term relationship and you have children, but you have 4 children, so there are 6 of you, you also would not be in compliance with the the existing Washington Grove definition of household. So I think that I hope this is not controversial, but I think adopting the Montgomery County definition of household seems appropriate, seems fitting with what I believe this current town in 2024 stands for, and is, you know, part of the broader community. So
Rob, when you say their definition of household, are you referring to a definition that's specific to Montgomery County's ADU ordinance, or just is it more general than that?
Well, I'm really just going by the deleted language here, which, as I understand it, was originally adopted from the county's regulations for ADUs. But I think this definition of household is for the zoning generally. I mean, yeah, it's not specific to ADU, although it probably has more. Well, I think it has broader applicability, since this is an amendment to the zoning generally, not just specific to ADUs.
So if we call this ADU household, would that?
No,
Well, but
no.
ADUs?
this
Because-
definition is not about people living in the ADU. I think this is just a definition of what is meant by household. And I think we realized that we never used the word household in the rest of the ordinance, which is why we kind of didn't, I don't know, not that we didn't like care about it, but we were like, well, do we even need to include the definition in here? But I do agree with Rob that including guardianship is important. And so just to clarify, is the crossed out part the Montgomery County definition?
Yes, what I'm highlighting now.
Okay, and is what we had in there was just what was in there to begin with?
What's in here is now, it just turned a different blue.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that was my question. But yeah, you know, as far as I can understand, for what Peter was saying, this is a definition of just what is meant by household in general, not anything having to do with like who can live in an ADU.
Right, this
That's
is
right.
This is a definition in Article 7.
Right.
Is our zoning ordinance.
But yeah, I mean, I think if I can't remember our discussion about it. I think we kind of just, you know, we're like, well, let's stick with what was there. But it does make sense, I guess, given what Rob said, that we could change it to what the Montgomery County definition is. So I would be on board with that.
This is Barbara. One stumbling block that we had with this is on number 3, where it says 2 unrelated people and any children, etc. Because that would, I assume they meant 2 unrelated adults. And there's somewhere else in the county code where they talk about having only 2 people over 18 in the ADU. And that really was a stumbling block for us, because there might be, you know, 2 parents and an adult child or something like that. So that's one reason why we were moving away from this. I'm sure we didn't intend to exclude guardianship. But that was one thing. And I think one thing led to another in that discussion. And then we just said, well, the existing definition seems okay. But your point is well taken, Rob, that's missing from the existing definition.
It's actually a little hard to parse this because number 1 is any number of people related by, there's your guardianship again. So, you know, you can have 10, whatever, if they're related, then up to 5 unrelated. So that's clearly a different, you know, expands the definition. But 3 is really expands, but also falls within these other 2. You know, 2 unrelated people plus the, you know, children associated with them, basically says, okay, we can have some unrelated people plus all their family and related relations, and just limits it to 2 of those. And yeah, you know, it's a little bit complex to figure out how that would apply in you know, all cases, but it may cover pretty much anything anybody's concerned about.
Do we need three?
Mhm.
If we just had 1 and 2 and we deleted 3, does that work?
But again, like this, nowhere else in the ordinance are we stipulating anything about household. Like we decided, you know, that the ADU could have up to 5 persons of any age or any relation. So like, I guess what I'm saying is like, we have this definition in here, but it's like, we don't even necessarily, I think we even talked about at one point, just taking the definition out completely, because for
It's
this
used in
ordinance.
primary, it's used in
It's
primary
used
Oh,
dwelling
okay.
unit.
Okay, so it is
You
in
just have to
there.
run a
Right here.
search for a household. So
I just
So,
did.
okay.
I just did because that's what you do, and here it is.
Yeah, it is there.
This is our this is a bugaboo has been a bugaboo for quite a while.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Rayford
it
made a
is-
rec,
So it is in there, but I guess what I'm saying is the definition of the household has no bearing on who can live in the ADU in this ordinance. So I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is like,
I don't think
It
that's
makes-
right. A dwelling unit is a building or portion of a building providing complete living facilities for not more than one household. So if, and accessory dwelling unit is a subspecies of dwelling unit. So if you have either in the primary dwelling unit or an accessory dwelling unit, if you have a group of people living that don't fit the definition of household, then that's out of compliance. That's why I brought this up. It is not limited to the ADUs that we're focused on here, because that's the main part of the change. But while we're in the process of, I think, overhauling to some degree our zoning here, there was the thought that we should update, I think, make more modern the
yeah, well, that makes sense. That's why I said I'm on board with making that
yeah,
change.
yeah. No, I know you are. If I wasn't suggesting otherwise. I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure
I guess
why
what I'm
people
saying is
understood
like,
why we might want to care about this, because
I guess what I'm saying is I don't know if it makes sense to start tinkering with the definition that's for, like, I don't know. I guess I'm thinking, well, if this is the definition that Montgomery County has, then I don't know if it makes sense. Like Christine was suggesting getting rid of 3. I don't feel comfortable tinkering around with this. I say let's use what Montgomery County has.
yeah, I think that the reason why I thought
But-
you might want to keep 3 is because the example, hypothetical, I think, but it exists. Two people who aren't married but have 4 kids. They don't fit any of the other 2 categories.
But doesn't 3 in our definition cover all the other categories? Because if it doesn't fall in category 1 or 2, then it can consist of no more than 5 persons. So I would think that in those 5 persons, it could be any combination. We're not restricting, what that composition needs to be. Just in terms of ADU.
A non-married couple who have 4 children don't fit in 3. That's it, just as simple as that. I'm not
Yeah, 1 and
trying
2
to like,
do not cover.
yeah, I'm just saying like there it seems that, but then if you think about like, well, here's an example, it doesn't fit in either of the existing definitions. Putting aside like the guardianship, which I think we should probably
I think just to offer a commentary on this household definition. Really, the most important thing is this last bit, where any association of unrelated individuals in a group in a household is not a household. All right, so when you say 2 unrelated people, that I'm sure that infers adults, because it then goes on to talk. I mean, it talks about the children, their parents, their siblings, whoever, who all become related people, plus the addition of guardianship. It allows for people related in the broader sense of being related, whereas club, fraternity, sorority, whatever, those associations aren't the kind of relations that a residential our residential rules, we want these to apply. We don't want them to apply to these. So, yeah, I think it's a good point, Rob, that, you know, I don't actually see the harm in changing the household definition. But it's up to you guys.
Well, the thing though is that this is all great discussion, but the thing that we all agreed on in our committee was that there's a limit of 5 people, 2 parents related or unrelated, or
But
2
that's
people
for the
who have-
ADU, Peter. That's
yeah.
just for the ADU. This is a definition that is across the board for a primary residence or an ADU.
Right, right.
So,
But-
so
but,
how
like-
a primary residence can have more than 5 people. So, yeah,
But
I
it-
just,
it-
sorry.
but they're both considered households, aren't they?
Yes.
So there's a loophole.
No,
Is it?
no,
Where's the lawyer?
no, there's no loophole. It's just that the ADU, we're putting a limit of 5. It's a household that we're putting a limit of 5 for the ADU, whereas a primary dwelling unit can have a household with more than 5 by the
Okay.
definition of household.
Right, as long as the attorney is present here.
I
don't
mean,
see
am
that
I-
as a- yeah,
Am I
that's
wrong?
If you look at, if you look at part
Rob?
2, 611, part 2,
Yeah,
sub number E. The total number of occupants residing in the accessory dwelling unit is limited to 5.
mhm,
So I think that controls for the ADU.
okay,
What Eva was saying. So I think for an ADU, it both has to be a household because it's a dwelling
Mhm.
unit, but it's a household limited of 5.
okay, great.
So,
I
so
just
my
wanted to make sure
example of like a
Okay, that's a
couple
good
who
point.
have 4 children,
Yeah.
but aren't married, like or even if they are married, like they can't live in an ADU regardless of. 'Cause they
Okay,
don't-
I wanted to hear you say that. Okay, good.
Yeah, because the size, it's too small.
Yeah,
So
it's just too
that's
small,
the
right?
thing.
That's yeah. I should have prefaced this by saying my comment was not specific to the ADU, and I agree with the cap
Mhm.
on 5 people for ADU for
Okay.
all the very good reasons that the people more involved in this came to that conclusion. Its size and whatnot, and
Mhm.
parking and all those things.
If you're looking at the screen, I'm highlighting the dwelling unit thing, which the current version of the ordinance replaces family with household. We're discussing the household definition, so this is what applies to the main, to main, the principal residence unit. And Rob's just pointed out that the attached unit, the ADU, however, is more restrictive than this
Mhm.
general household provision.
I think I need a second for my motion to amend.
Yes, you do. We're at the point of.
I'll
second.
second.
Well, Eva's got it.
So the
Can you
motion,
read, can you read the motion again, please?
the motion is to adopt the language that I'm highlighting here, which is purportedly the Montgomery County definition of a household in their ADU unit. But I believe, and as Rob is correct, I think this is their definition of a household throughout.
To adopt this and then delete the grade part above, which is the.
Well,
exhibit.
yeah, this is the note, of course, and the gray, yes, is the gray has to now come out. Well, no,
Mhm.
not quite. It has to say group persons consisting of single individual, a group of, okay, we don't need this.
You can
Consisting
delete
of.
after everything after consisting of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it would just pick up with consisting of a person living alone
Take out
or
this.
any one of the following groups, blah, blah, blah.
There. So now I'm gonna have to turn that one green too. Okay, and that makes these it's complicated. Let me copy it. Sorry. Copy that. And we'll put this in here. No. Sorry, I'm trying to. copy?
Can you just undelete that?
Well, if I do that, it's not part of the existing ordinance. I can certainly undo
Oh,
it.
I see. Yeah, you need to make it, you need to show
Yeah,
it.
well, I can just accept, oops, I don't want to accept the change. I want to reject the change. If I
Mhm.
reject the change, now it's
Oh, there we go. Yeah, now it's, yeah.
Now I can at least copy it and put it in a second time. That's not what I want to do. I'll put it in down here. And
Sometimes I hate redlining too.
I hate this kind
I
of
have to
thing.
do so much redlining.
This is this. Okay,
I
there.
love it.
So it was rejected the first time. So the modification is to bring it back and take out this other these conditions at the top. Okay. So that's the proposal. Any other discussion on this amendment to the ordinance?
So this is Barbara. So 2 unrelated people and any children, etc. I'm still a little bit stuck on that because that would be like if 2 couples wanted to live together, it looks like they wouldn't be able to. Because that was one of the examples that was given to us when we had comments coming in. I mean, I'm not objecting to this as a whole, but this is just one stumbling block that I have here.
2 couples is because it's 5 unrelated. Number 2.
Well, if they're married, they're related by marriage. So that would, you see, this is the discussion we had in our group.
Any number of people
Unrelated
by
people.
marriage. So
But if you have two,
2 are related, and then up to 5. It seems.
but
to me,
these
I
2
know
are
what
not.
you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
I do understand what you're saying. So 2 married couples could not live in the same house under even the Montgomery County. Yeah, I guess it's up to 5 unrelated people. I guess that's right. Well, so I don't know if all 5 people have to be unrelated.
Yeah,
Right, like
I
up
think
to
it-
5 people related or unrelated.
Right, unrelated. Yeah, at one point, yeah, that was one of the things. Yeah, related or unrelated people. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
well,
I would add that's actually a very good addition. Up to 5 related or unrelated people.
nope, that won't do because this one is much more expansive than that. If you're related, you get to have as many as there's no limitation.
Yeah, but all of those people have to be related. Maybe like a mix of 5 up to 5
And so
wait,
you want to
so-
people who
qualify.
are a mix of related or unrelated.
so
Yeah, so-
why wouldn't 2, oh, I guess I see what you're saying. 2 married couples, they're related, the 2 are related to each other, but they're not related. I don't know. I'm getting,
Yes, no, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
so yeah, so up to 5 people related or unrelated, or any combination thereof. Yeah.
Can I make a comment? We went round and round about this a lot also. And in RATEC, we just made a suggestion that why is the government trying to define household at all? Especially if now you have the limit of number of people. And that speaks to, I think, what Rob was talking about with modern arrangements. Why can't household just be a group of people living together and no more than 5, and then have the thing about the fraternities and stuff? I mean, this is all so cumbersome. It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm not saying we went through the same thing, but what's the point of trying to define it anyway if you have a limit?
But that's the thing, is that we don't have a limit when it's not an ADU.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well
so,
then,
yeah.
but why are we in the business of deciding who qualifies to be a household anyway?
I mean, I agree with you in that sense, Paula. It is getting ridiculous in like all of this. So I think that's why I'm just thinking, well, let's just use what Montgomery County has. although I do,
but that's cumbersome too. I mean, it's crazy to try to parse all this out. I mean,
How do you deal with a group home? They're unrelated.
by having that one paragraph, a household is not, just saying what it is not.
I mean, I guess I kind of feel like, you know, for now, because again, we are going to be able to review this and make changes. For now, maybe we just use the Montgomery County definition. I don't really think that, you know, people are going in and monitoring everyone's households and making, you know what I mean? Like, I worry that we're spending a lot of time on something that is not really going to have any bearing on you know, and I mean, I see where Rob is saying, like, well, let's make changes that are important where we can, to kind of update it and modernize it. But I don't know if it makes sense to agonize over it either.
Yeah, I didn't mean to hopefully this isn't quite derailing it, but I just saw, because we had existing language that had been in the original one and then was deleted and keeping the current ordinance language, which I think is out of date. I just said let's go back to what people had proposed the change to be, which is the consistent with Montgomery County. I think perhaps I'm not I'm pretty liberal, but maybe not the wild-eyed liberal that that my friend Paula is. So I kind of like some coherence and tradition and whatnot. I don't know. I'd just go with like the I'm teasing, Paula. I agree very much with the basic sentiment. I think the formulation, just if it is consistent with Montgomery County, seemed to make sense, and it picked up some things that the older old-fashioned Washington Grove ordinance doesn't include.
Yeah, I agree. It's updating it, and I think, you know, we go with that, and yeah.
So can we just tweak to do what we talked about
that?
earlier, up to 5 related or unrelated people?
I
Are people
support
okay with that?
And any children, blah, 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 blah.
What?
So.
No, I didn't say that.
5 related people and any children, parents, siblings, or other, no.
So you're gonna have like
that
8
wouldn't
people
work.
in an ADU?
No,
Okay, but again, this is not,
yeah,
it's not
ADU
about
is
the
capped
ADU.
at 5 people total. Doesn't matter what kind of household you are.
Yeah,
Right.
forget the ADU. We're not talking about an ADU here. This is the general definition of a household.
I would just, so as Barbara said, 5 related or unrelated people.
Just to give credit where credit's due, I believe that came from Mimi Bolotin. I think that was her suggestion.
And Mimi's terrific.
Well, my feeling is that's squishy because
Related or unrelated. That allows the 2 couples, like the two married couples.
how about any 5, up to 5, up to a combination of 5 unrelated and unrelated individuals.
I'm not sure the combination adds anything, but if you feel better about that.
Okay, you feel that is implied. Well, I'm not so sure it is, but okay, unrelated and related people. All right, I just added this. Okay.
No, I think what we were saying is up to 5 related or unrelated people.
Yeah, I
Oh, look, let's reread this number 3. 2 unrelated people. So you got 2 married couples. So 2 of them are unrelated.
No, 2
No.
people is 2 people, not
That's
2
one
couples.
couple.
Yeah.
It doesn't mention
One
marriage.
couple and any of their kids.
It doesn't mention marriage. That was That's.
Right, but it just mentions 2 people. We're talking about number 2, up to 5 related or unrelated people.
Well, no, 3 is talking about any number of people.
No, I'm talking about 2, number 2,
Yeah, that's just 5, right?
Yeah.
up to 5 related or unrelated
That's-
people.
Yes, I accept that amendment to my amendment.
Good. And the second accepts it too. Who's the
Oh,
second?
yes, I will accept it.
Okay, good. So it's in there.
It just, no, John, it's just up to 5 unrelated or related people. Or.
And you want to mix
Yeah, okay, fine, yeah.
And or.
unrelated and related people. Okay.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
Can't
it
be
doesn't make sense.
unrelated and related at the same time.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be
It should-
unrelated
it should be
or
or.
related.
It should be or.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that's why I wanted to put a combination in to make it clear, but you thought that was implied.
It-
In other words, up to
This seems, this seems
5.
up to a
unrelated or-
combination of 5 unrelated. I mean, fine. I'm
That's-
fine with
that's
a
more
combination
explicit.
of involved. I accept that amendment. Is the mayor allowed to propose amendment?
No, but
So
yeah,
you're
you guys-
accepting related or unrelated?
I am.
All right.
I'm
Ava,
good with this just as it is. Is my second good with it?
Yes.
all right.
Do we have to vote on the amendment and then vote on the whole bill as amended?
That's what we have to do. Is there any further discussion on this amendment? Yeah. Okay, then all in favor of this amendment? Please indicate by saying aye. That's unanimous. Okay, we have changed the definition of a household. Nothing else has been changed so far. Paula's discussion of neighborhood, do we want to go into that at this point of including the neighborhood or not?
Yeah, I think, I can't remember who replied to Paula and said, well, there's kind of a semi definition of neighborhood in the comprehensive
Bob
plan.
Dorothy.
Yeah, so I mean, why can't we refer to that or let me put it this way. When I was on the BZA, this is always an issue because, you know, when people wanted to get a you know, have the BZA let them, you know, have reduced setbacks or something, there's always this language that we would have to follow that said that, you know, if you want to basically violate the setbacks, you can only do it if your house is in absolutely unique position. And we were always getting into this idea of, well, compared to what? Compared to just the other houses in that block on that side of the street, or compared to the houses on the block on both sides of the street, or compared to the houses on the entire street. I mean, we were always getting into this. And so, yeah, I think if we're going to use the word neighborhood, we need to better define that.
I had a suggestion of rewording, and it may not be the perfect rewording, but the sentiment is the same, and it's just I always get concerned if there's subjectivity, if there's any subjectivity involved in like homeowners restrictions. So I just suggested that maybe it could be something like compatibility with elements in that neighborhood within Washington Grove as identified in the comprehensive plan, because then it's clear what those are. It's not subjective.
I could live with that if it said, like, you know, what section of the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, that would be good.
Something like that.
So just for to be specific, I actually have the section in the comprehensive plan here on that. Yeah, so here, 9.6 is town neighborhoods. There's an introductory paragraph, and then it goes on, delineation of the neighborhoods. And so here is the ones from the National Registry, and there's the et cetera, that goes on with all of the different neighborhoods by the time but separated basically by what they have in common with either when they were built or their location in town and or
the view shed.
So Paula's suggestion to refer to the comprehensive plan is referring to this discussion here. Then there's just some recommendations. That's irrelevant, but okay, well, Paula's explained what she had in mind, or that she was proposing, and offered some language to make it more clear what that change might look like. So, council,
Can we look at the language and the change like you've done before,
right.
so we could do a comparison?
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds good, but I want to see it written out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so where's the first, I can look for neighborhood just to get all the all of the places. All right, it's okay, keep in mind the red is out. I tell you what, yeah, the red is out, the green is in. So at this point. And it's a modification to be compatible with the existing structure and the neighborhood. Is there, and then it is, that doesn't count, and that one doesn't count. And it's the same thing in the next section about detached. So that was the attached. And this is the preamble to the background. It also appears in the background.
And I'm sorry if this was already said, the suggestion that Paul was making, would it make sense to make it a definition in the definition section of what we mean by neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm
So
sure
yeah, can we see that suggestion written out? Just because I've now forgotten it.
Yes,
Sorry.
idea. I'm going up to the definitions. If I went right by them, but here they are. So definitions: front yard, household, house off street. Here, okay. This would be still on this. Sorry, off street. It's here.
So Paula, what is your concern again? Now that we've seen this again in context?
Just just saying that it has to be compatible with the neighborhood is too subjective. And it was for some of the reasons that Christine was saying. I mean, and even in the beginning of the comprehensive plan, where they talked about the specific elements of different areas in Washington Grove called neighborhoods, it even said that sometimes it's hard to tell where one neighborhood begins and one ends. And even within the definitions within the neighborhoods, there were words like most of the houses have the same scale or whatever, or some, you know, whatever. Anyway, the point is just to make neighborhood that they're defining it according to the comprehensive plan, that those specific areas and those very specific elements are defined in the comprehensive plan, rather than it being just somebody eyeballing the house and saying it doesn't look enough like the other houses right around it. That's all.
All right, so just going back to the original, to the HPCs, our discussion about the HPC, how does that really matter with ADU, since there's nothing, the planning commission can't do anything about it anyway?
What do you mean?
Well, we look at the zoning for it, right? But with the way compatibility, how is that going to be controlled? What power do we have to
Well,
tell them it's not compatible?
just like with anything else, if the HPC is making a suggestion
A
to the home,
suggestion, yeah.
right. They're never, I mean, what are you going to put in here? Just, okay,
You could
that
put a
doesn't
box.
exactly make
You could
sense.
put you could put a box in there, basically, right?
But what I'm saying is, so are you saying that if it really doesn't matter, why do you have any of it in here then?
Yeah,
If
I
you're-
think it makes sense to define what we mean by neighborhood. I definitely think that makes sense for exactly what Christine was saying.
Why? I'm just
Is a
curious.
neighborhood the street? Is a neighborhood the entire town? I think
But
if we've
how does that
used it,
affect what we're doing? I'm
Well,
just being devil's advocate for based on, I mean, if you want to go back to what Bob was saying, okay, if we know the town has no control right now over what's built there, basically, except, the limitations that we have as far as the zoning, not what it looks like. And so neighborhood's not even relevant in this.
So why
unless you're
have
missing something
anything
here.
in there that the HPC said then? I mean, why do you have
They
anything?
say it's a recommendation. They're trying to.
I know.
They're trying to protect our town.
No, I'm not saying it
You know,
shouldn't be.
yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
saying, based on what you're saying, it
Yeah.
sounds like there's no point in having anything because there's no real obligation to fulfill it. So, I mean, that doesn't make, I just don't understand.
You can always,
Anyway, I'm gonna leave this.
This is the HPC's frustration. No, this is their frustration. This
Hey,
is exactly
John.
what it is.
John, can
But-
you,
yeah.
do we have written down, this is what I keep asking, do we have written down what Paula's suggestion is? Can we just
No,
written down?
use that. I mean, this is interesting thing. I mean, we can write down what she said. What was your language, Paul?
Well, that had to do specifically with that section. I mean, it had to be
What was
changed to the compatibility with elements in that neighborhood within Washington Grove as identified in the comprehensive plan. That's
So
pretty
we
clear.
could put something here like neighborhood refers to the neighborhoods identified in the comprehensive plan, or yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't see why not. Like
Doesn't
that
hurt.
makes,
Yeah, it
that
doesn't
makes
hurt.
sense to
Yeah.
me. I mean, we
Yeah.
have all of these other definitions.
Yeah.
So why not define what
Yeah,
we mean by
that's-
neighborhood?
That's simple, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, and that would be better to, because I was about to make a statement. If you want to introduce the definition of neighborhood generally into our ordinances, then probably you shouldn't be referring to a changing reference like the comprehensive plan. It's all fine for now. But what you need to do is incorporate all of that neighborhood language into the into the zoning ordinance as a definition, rather than cross-refer to other documents. So I don't know how you guys feel about that, but there's nothing wrong with creating a neighborhood definition and just taking it directly from the comprehensive plan. Don't have to agonize over it, because the only place it's going to be referred to so far is in this ordinance, the ADU section. It's not anywhere, wouldn't be referred to anywhere else yet. But we can put the language in that you suggested, but once again, it refers to a flexible, a revised, a moving document. And yeah, it's good for 10 years until we go back to it.
Well,
You'll
this
still be
document is
there,
getting
John.
reviewed in 5 years, so I mean, if something changes drastically in the
I think
comprehensive
it's
plan,
bad legal policy to refer to well, maybe you can. Maybe the comprehensive plan is just as much of a in force as our ordinances. I think there's a question there. I would prefer the neighborhood definition be put into the zone, into Article 7, into these definitions. Of course, it's I showed it to you. It's 2 pages long, but whatever, I think the point is well made, that neighborhood as just referred to, it leaves, you know, vagueness. Referring to the comprehensive plan certainly relieves some of that vagueness. It's just, my only point is that that means that could be a changing definition, which is just fine, maybe so. Okay, so that proposal is, once again, Paula, read what you had. She's still there. You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You mean that would go in there instead of a definition?
Yeah, just.
Oh, okay, just what I had.
And the neighborhood.
Okay, compatibility with elements in that neighborhood within Washington
What
Grove.
is it? And
Oh,
compatibility.
sorry. I can't see it.
With neighborhoods.
With elements in that neighborhood within Washington Grove. As identified in the comprehensive plan. Neighborhood within Washington Grove. As identified in the comprehensive plan.
Okay, I'm gonna uncross out this because it's getting too confusing. So this is now back in, and we just added the red here. The existing structure and compatible elements of that neighborhood within Washington Grove as identified in the comprehensive plan. And then this comes out. Okay. And that would be repeated in the detached thing, which is also here in the green. Should be compatible with the historic interior. The historic is, no, it doesn't mention it. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay.
So John, what if it's not compatible with the neighborhood?
That's grounds for not approving the design as proposed, presumably.
And who's doing that? The PC?
Yes, the PC, of course.
Well, now we're right back to where we started from.
Well, this is the language that's in the current version of the ordinance. No amended, nothing amended. Let me just get there.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying going back to the original discussion with what the HPC wanted.
But this doesn't have to do with authority. This just has to do with what the HPC will look at and recommend to you, and then you decide if you want to deny it on that basis or not.
Are you agreeing with that, John?
Yeah, it allows the PC to use it specifies that if the PC wants to comment on the neighborhood compatibility, it provides a reference to what they should be using.
Looking at.
Yeah.
And the PC can deny the ADU.
Not the
if it's not
PC,
compatible?
the planning commission, just the way they could have, the way it was worded before.
Okay.
Hi, this is Bob. I'm now on the screen, but I sort of missed part of it. But where does the PC get its enabling authority to do that?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking too.
Well, I'll just read this one. The detached unit should be compatible with the existing structure and compatible with elements of that neighborhood within Washington Office identifying commercial plan, and should, all right. And should be compatible with the historic interior, the historic and the voluntary recommended guidelines for new construction as defined by the Historic Preservation Commission.
That
says-
that enables the planning commission to condition the approval?
It doesn't enable them to condition it, it enables them to deny it.
Okay, well, Bob, we should
Yeah,
just be
but,
quiet and go ahead.
Conditioning is a more flexible
Yes, indeed.
tool than denial.
Uh-huh,
It sure is.
uh-huh. Okay, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
All right.
So the argument, Bob, of as I'm sure you heard, was that this is not the place to expand the criteria for the PC in general to make to condition approvals, which was the language that was proposed. The existing language nevertheless allows the PC to utilize, they can't condition the approval, but they can.
It doesn't say anywhere that they can deny approval though, right?
Well, that's what all of these conditions are all about. Must satisfy the use standards.
Okay. So then the planning commission will make a determination of compatibility. That's what you're saying.
Based on the HPC recommendation, yeah, of course.
There you go. Hey, all right.
They can ignore the HPC recommendation. I mean, the planning commission has the power.
But just to deny or approve.
Yeah, there's no condition. They're not allowing condition.
That's a little
fine line, actually, because in Washington Grove, of course, somebody will say, well, what if I change it this way? And the PC will say, well, you got to actually change a little more. And they say, okay. And then that's, short of actually writing out a condition, that you get the same result. We don't, it's not like we have big housing developments and stuff like that where we have to, nobody should be paying attention to these details unless they're, except as a whole. We do it one-offs. We do it one-offs. The only one we don't do one-offs is the one where the conditions were approved, the subdivisions.
You're not allowing yourself flexibility in the process.
That's right, but I think the implication, I think the council was saying, if that idea has merits, it should be addressed on its own.
So Peter and Bob, you're saying that this actually gives the HPC more power? Is that what you're saying?
No, it doesn't give the HPC more power.
If the HPC, nothing extra.
Yeah, no, it doesn't give them any, they already do it. They're just making suggestions. That's all.
Right, but what are you worried about with the PC?
I'm not worried about with this, the way it's been explained to me just now.
Okay, so what I worry about, Paula,
Yeah.
is that the suggestions that could be made to improve the compatibility, it's either a black or white situation. It's either a yes or a no, and I think that's going to put the planning commission in a very untenable position for judging compatibility. That's not what they do.
Okay.
And I think that puts them in a very hard position of how to make that determination. I think it's unfair to the planning commission.
Okay. So, okay.
All right, we need to hear from the rest of the council on this because we're
Sorry, I'll shut up.
here a while. We have to do the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's address this. You guys want to act on this tonight or push it to April 16th?
I think we should vote on it.
Tonight.
We've been talking about it a lot. I think we're ready to vote.
Somebody move the question.
So,
If you all agree to that, then we'll move on to vote. We
I
don't need-
move, I have one other minor edit. This should not require any discussion at all.
Oh,
This
you want
is
to
in
bet?
section 614, Town Council Review.
Ah,
Yep,
The town council shall commence a review. You should insert of
yeah,
this.
bad language, that's okay. All right, fine. Yeah,
Okay, that's my suggestion.
no brainer, that's
All right.
grammar. Grammar is like a good.
Mary
Sometimes-
picked that up.
Sometimes everything is in one word and sometimes nothing is in one
Right.
word.
So I move that we, first of all, John, please take out the red that, that we agreed not to
I
add.
crossed it out, so you want to see a clean copy? Just a minute. Okay, let me just save this. Yes, now I will take out, I will. The trouble is I can't delete it without accepting it. Okay, there, good. That one's good. This one's no good. K is no good, so this is out. Okay,
Okay, so I move that we approve this ZTA.
I'll second it.
just to be clear, the only changes that were being made, the changes that are being made to the previous amended version. So we're accepting amendments, by the way. This is only the amendments, which we have to vote on.
And the motion is not to approve the ZTA.
No, as the motion is to approve the amendments. The
I
amendments.
thought we just approved the amendments. Didn't we approve the amendments?
Oh, did we approve the amendments? No, we just added some more amendments,
Oh.
the neighborhood language.
All right.
Okay,
Okay, so this is to approve the addition of the neighborhood. This is in red, referring to the comprehensive plan in two places. And I don't recall whether we approved the change in the definition of household, but let's
We
just
did.
let's include
We
that.
voted
This
on that.
neighborhood business is out. Let me get that out of here. All right. This.
Yes, we already voted
Yeah,
on it.
we already approved that.
Okay, so we're voting on the neighborhood thing. All in favor of amending to that language and that addition of? All right. All right, the amendment's approved. Now on to the amended ordinance. Barbara was moving to approve that. Who seconded?
Peter seconded it.
Okay, so all in favor? Any opposed? Ordinance passes. Wonderful.
Yay.
Okay, so this is I'll just leave it here, guys. Just leave it. All right. Get rid of a few things here. Okay, next item is the town budget. So Jean has hung in here, I hope.
I'm here.
All right, so I hope you guys took a look. I had a few days to look at the proposed budget, and what we're going to do is put up, stop that share, and we should put up, I think I'm going to put up the Excel version, Jean.
Whatever.
And I'll probably mangle it and you'll have to unravel it. So if I can find the Excel version, I'll put it up. What did I do with it? Let's see, of course I put it in a different place. Here we go. Budget development process. There we go. Oh, you sent me a new one. And don't use that one, use the new one. Apologize for having this. Okay, where is it? Today, yesterday. Fixed now. Here we are. All right. And we'll start here.
Go back in your bed. Go back in your bed. You smell. You smell. Yes, you do.
All right. I'll try and make this as big as it's readable for everybody. All right, take it from the top, Jean.
So if these first rows here is really a summary, John, if you want to get to the meat and potatoes, you want to scroll down to line 52. There.
Yep.
So this is the detail behind the income that we can go through first. With the real property tax, the state sends a letter giving the town's total valuation assessment of all properties. That's the 111 million. And then the state calculates what the constant yield rate would be, which is to say the rate that would be needed to, the definition is at the bottom, and perhaps just reading that is much better than me trying to remember the exact definition. On line 97, John?
Oh, it's 97. I thought
Yeah. It's the rates. It represents a real property tax rate for the coming tax year that will generate the same amount of revenue that was generated during the current tax year. So if you think of it as property valuations are going up, the rate would drop to come up with roughly the same income. So the rate is proposed to go down. It was at 0.2370. It'll go down to 2326 per 100. And this is proposed by the state. So it's up to ultimately the town to decide if they agree with that rate. Any questions on that? It's a little complicated, but it's very cut and dry actually, because the state just provides the rate and the valuation. The dwelling tax, this is the equivalent, since we pay for our own trash and recycling, a rate is added on the property tax detail. It basically is reimbursing the town for paying for its own trash and recycling because we don't get it from the county. Last year's budget, the 54,000, we were in dialogue with the trash company about whether the rates were going to get increased mid-year, and we weren't sure. So we just took an estimate of what we thought it might be, and we aimed a little too high. So last year, the rate, the dollars per dwelling was $240. So it should have been, once we knew, later after the budget was settled, we knew exactly what the contract would be. And it was much lower. If we had known that, we would have made the rate 201 instead of 240. So a $39 increase for the year per dwelling. So what we're proposing here, and it's in the footnote number 1, John. I don't know if you want to scroll all the way down to the bottom. If you just took this year's trash and recycling, because if you remember at last meeting, we had a presentation and we know the cost, what it's going to be in the contract. And so without any of this last year stuff, the rate would end up being calculated to be 218. What we're proposing in this budget is to effectively give each resident an extra rebate, if you want to think of it that way, by knocking the rate even farther down. So if you took the 218, which we would have had it been, we're going to subtract $39. So the new rate will be $179 per dwelling. So we're obviously, for those who paid the higher rate in this current fiscal year and then moved, they're not going to get the benefit of the rebate. And the folks that are new people will have the benefit of a rebate when they didn't pay a little extra. However, this is our best way of recompensating to residents that the rate was a little inflated for this current fiscal year because we went with the best knowledge that we had at the time the budget had to be approved. Any questions?
So Gene, I'm not sure your 49 is correct here.
If you go down to the expenses, we can double check it.
Well, it's the 49 that I don't like, but I think I'm just now thinking that's down here. Waste collection. There we
Yeah,
go. Yeah, this-
those two numbers together, you get 49,034.
right, but we aren't going to raise 49,034. We're going to raise 179 times 225.
Yeah. And we can make that change.
40,275.
40,000. I have a copy of this up. I'm going to make that change as well here.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Yep. You and I, we'd already been at this and it was 11 o'clock at night. So I think.
Yeah. And it's actually not 4275 because we're going to, what happened to the?
It's right below it, right? 872.
Oh yeah, right here. We're going to, we're also going to be picking up the commercial corner, and the best we can estimate is 4 equivalents, no rebates. That's another 872. So revenue for trash, the dwelling assessment, the trash assessment.
39,403.
Yeah.
Got it.
So we introduced this commercial services fee. Okay.
So Peter, I'll work with you to produce an invoice to go to the Bell Properties. It'll just be a one-time invoice.
Now, well, first we need a letter to them.
Yeah, alert her first.
Saying, this is what we're doing. That we, as part of the agreement to pick up the trash in the new year, in the new fiscal year, that we would assess them for their proportionate share. And, and then you can send the invoice separately.
So we'll work, once this is approved, we can work on that. The public utility operating property tax, it's very consistent at 5,000 a year. Penalties and interest, there's no way of predicting what that might be. So we put zeros in. The income tax. We have to effectively estimate, because income tax, is paid on income of all the residents. So we have to effectively try to find a way to predict what all the residents' incomes will be in the next fiscal year, and how much tax they'll pay on that. Kind of a shot in the dark. Mary had a method using information gathered during this current fiscal year. It's the only information we can try to grab onto and use it to project out the next year. As you can see with the estimate to year end, we always estimate low, but this one is such a very difficult one to nail down, because it's you need a crystal ball, so better to aim low. And I've analyzed Mary's method, and I agree it's best you can come up with. So, you could look at the projected estimate for this, fiscal year and say, well, we should bump it up. but you never know what's going to happen with the economy. Are people going to lose their jobs, and so the tax income will go down? It's such an unknown. Best to aim low. The business licenses, building permits, those are all small dollars and guesstimates. The cable television franchise fee we get through Comcast and Verizon. Again, it pretty consistently comes in at 5,000.
Let me make a comment on that. I'm on, I'm a representative on the Montgomery Municipal Cable. I'm on the board. The county and the municipalities are all operating with the existing agreement for the franchise fees lapsed a few years ago, maybe 3. They've been continuing at the rate that agreement specified. Apparently the cable companies have been okay with that. But the reality is, as you know, that people are beginning to those franchise fees. The people are using cellular delivery of streaming or not, or Fios or whatever. It's not a the cable fees have been diminishing, and so it's been feared that a fair amount of county funds in the many millions, as well as our 5,000 and others get more, depend on these continuing. So there is some uncertainty as to what this is going to end up being. We'll see. Just a footnote on that, because things are in flux with respect to this franchise. There is the franchise agreement is lapsed. Yeah. Okay.
Highway user revenue. I receive estimates a couple times a year from the state, projecting what it will be for the coming fiscal year, as well as the final for the existing fiscal year. And so these numbers really just come from that letter.
Okay.
County municipal tax duplication. John, you said that's 95.
Hey, Gene,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
gave.
can we carry over funds from the highway
When
revenue?
we get to the fund balance, I think I can give you a good explanation of that, if you can
Okay.
hold on that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this number should be higher.
95, I think is what you said
What I said was
last
90.
night.
Yeah, that's what it is in the proposed county budget, whether
Yeah.
it will stay there or not.
Okay, so I have made that change, John. If you want to make that 95 to, I made it on my copy.
Done.
We've got the recreation program user fees. Self-explanatory there. Investment earnings, we've made a killing. The budget was very low. Interest rates really took off. I was able to get our money market moved up to 4%. Our CDs are at 4%. The MLGIP is doing really well. And we've got so much money in there. But as we use the stormwater money that's sitting in MLGIP, obviously revenue will come down. And from what I'm reading and hearing, in the coming year, interest rates may be dropping. So I've tried to be conservative and brought those rates down. You'll see here we have total income that does not include using the ARPA money that we have received due to accounting standards, since we follow GAAP. When that money was received, it was placed in a category called deferred revenue. It was never recognized as revenue when we first received it. But as we use it, it becomes earned. And so that's kind of something I've talked about from month to month in the treasurer's reports. But we have put into this budget the assumption, and you can argue it one way or another, but that we would use up all the ARPA money that we've been sitting on with the stormwater projects that will be playing out for the, this end of this fiscal year into next fiscal year. It's a wonky way of earning revenue, and so we thought it was better to put it below the line, so to speak, here.
Right, the apples to apples comparison is this line.
Yes, yeah.
The budget is.
You'll see a very similar handling down in the expenses. Any questions on income before we move to expenses? Okay.
So you might ask, well, you'll note that the proposed income is somewhat higher than the current budget number. And of course, that comes largely from all of this interest income. Not to mention the income tax as well. Okay.
All right. Get into the expenses. We have general categories of expenses. Executive is basically running the town, Kathy, the website, that kind of thing. And so it is increasing a bit versus this current the budget that we're living under right now. We have put in here an amount on line 108, John, 1,500. If we do decide to go to a domain name that is a .gov, there's a work that may need to be done in the background coding that runs the website. And so we put some money in there. Christine, if you have any ideas on if that number's anywhere close to a good number, speak up. And then Barbara, I know you had asked about ADA captioning.
So it wasn't captioning per se, it was any kind of ADA accessibility issue.
On ADA, I'll just say on accessibility instead of captioning.
Yeah.
So we put 2,500 in for that. So those items kind of account for the increase in the executive department this current fiscal year versus next. All right, and get into my department here. At John's request, I'm been talked into increasing my hours. We have some kind of ad hoc projects I seem to be the most likely candidate to work on, like rewriting or updating the personnel policy. I'd like to also, we had the risk assessment done by the insurance company. Somebody's got to at least start to address some of their recommendations and what we can implement. I know the personnel policy was one of them. So you'll see a larger increase in row 121 there. We are now, we migrated last month to a version of QuickBooks that sits in the cloud. You pay a fee every month. The version that we had been on, which was just on a desktop, you paid for it once and that was it. So now we are stuck with paying a monthly fee. So the software that falls in this department is the HR payroll application called Rippling. I think those who have used it are happy with it. It makes my job a lot easier. And it certainly is a hit with the younger crew in the summer. They can do their timesheets on their phones, and that way I get timesheets timely.
A big improvement.
It's a huge improvement. So that software is really for Rippling, as well as this new QuickBooks that's online. The neat thing with that is I can give the auditors their own access. It's a controlled access into QuickBooks, and they can test whatever they want. No more me trying to find invoices and sending them to them. So that should speed up the audit dramatically. The rest of it, the audit fee itself, we went over that at the last meeting, really is remaining unchanged. We get to legal. We bumped up Sue Ellen just a tiny bit. In planning and zoning, it is pretty much the same except for the stormwater project. And this is what we've done. I mean, we already talked about the ARPA money, the federal money, right? And how we're going to use that up. We did a projection of how much extra interest the town has earned with all that money sitting there for this long time. And we would like to take that earnings and apply it to the project cost beyond what we have available through the ARPA funds. So that is been added here, and that's the explanation really for a large part of the increase in the total from this fiscal year to next fiscal year. Does that make sense to folks, hopefully? In the municipal buildings.
You want to address this one up here, energy conversion incentives program?
Oh, yeah. So the pilot project for the energy conversion, there hasn't been a lot of usage to date, 3,000. I'm hoping, I think, Bob, I heard wind that some other applications were coming through the pipeline. So I just doubled it for this year end, but we were just sort of making an assumption that this program will continue at the same funding that was given to it for the pilot period.
And the council will have to act on that in June.
Mm-hmm.
Because the pilot was approved for 12 months.
Yeah. All right, municipal buildings.
Not
much is different. I mean, we did drop down the hall maintenance a bit, quite a bit, but based on experience, I think I'm comfortable with that. Streets, roadways, alleys, really no big change there. Walkways, really no dollar action really happens in here. So we've dropped down the estimates on that to a degree. Street sanitation, this was a holdover from when Steve Wirtz would go around town picking up trash, and so some of his salary would get allocated here. So we don't have that happening anymore. That's going to go away. And are we in the waste? Yeah. So this is where you'll see the trash and recycling playing out at its full cost. It's based on the last meeting's discussion. And the leaf collection, the RFP will be going out or has gone out. So we just kind of added on, assuming it will go up. That's an estimate.
But we plan to open bids on April 16th, and we can put in, presumably at least somebody bids on it. Any indication, Kathy?
I think I have one.
Okay, well, that's
Oh, no,
good.
I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong place. No.
No, okay.
Well, presumably we get bids and we'll be able to award a contract, so we'll have an accurate number in here on April 16th, hopefully.
And our contract, John, calls for collection in the, I understood that theoretically it's supposed to be, they have the collection after the winter. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's this month.
They were supposed to come on the 22nd and they haven't come.
Already happened.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, just people, there's a lot of people just wondering, but they are going to come.
One more.
I'm gonna call them in the morning.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, with parks, the line 191, the contract services, that is like the whole big enchilada of RJ contract. This will be year 2 of the contract. And then we have built into the budget, RJ can do ad hoc work at a set rate that's in the contract. And so we've come up with kind of some lump sums in the general parts of the budget where this work would happen. And it's called contracted contingency. And
Here's one, walkways.
Yeah.
Right. And therefore,
You can even click on the tab that says RJ Landscaping and it'll tell you right there too. But in total, all the contracted contingency adds up to 30,000, as you can see right there, and it's just prorated to these 3 areas. That's where those numbers are coming up. And there's 10,000 for tree watering, and that's really out in the woods, I think. Which is where
it's all the new trees are out of town.
Yeah. All right, you can go back to that. We did bump up contract tree removal a bit because we've had so many trees dying off. Otherwise, the tree budget is for F&B is pretty much the same. You'll see on line 203, we've put a placeholder in for the stump carving. This is yet to, I think, be the whatever the contract is for when it's decided who is doing the carving, whether there needs to be an RFP or not, given the 5,000 or more policy. The idea would be that the town itself would pay no more than 5,000 for the stump carving. Anything beyond that, depending on the design, etc., would have to be come up with donations. And to the extent donations can reduce this 5,000, that's great too. Well, we did put a placeholder in there for that.
Well, let me I put in the proposal from Tom Land as to how to handle the stump carving expense. And the proposal, and he and I discussed this, and because it's the exact amount it will cost is not, it depends on what exactly, what sort of artwork is done, and that hasn't been decided. The range was between, between 7,000 and 10,000. The proposal is that donations will be raised for this community artwork. And my proposal was that the town would match those donations up to $5,000, which would mean if 5,000 could be raised, the town would match it. 10,000 would be the budget for the stump carving in our budget in preparation for that. So I'm not sure this falls. In fact, I'm pretty sure this doesn't fall on our contract RFP requirements, because we are in fact agreeing to a match to donations, which is not a contract. So I don't think we need to worry about the fact that there's 5 and not 4,999 here. But that's what that's all about. This is a budgeted amount. Just reminding everybody, that does not mean we're spending the money. The council still gets to approve the project and the match, the actual expense. So, all right.
I have a question. Woods management for this year is 20,000 and it's going to 50. Can you just explain that a little bit?
It was 50. It again is 50. This 20 will. Where did you get this estimate? I mean, the Woods tends to spend just like F&B. Spring end up spending money. Did you get something from?
No, Patty did not give me an estimate.
Okay, so that number could go up. Yeah,
it could go up. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The actual spent this fiscal year. So 50 is in the budget. 20 is what Jean has as being spent.
We had a meeting with the IPC too about spring treatment, so some will be spent before the 30th of June.
Okay, Joan, should I reach out to you and Patty then to get a better idea?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't have the estimate yet, but Kayla's going to get it to us in the next week or so.
Okay. Then there's time before the April meeting.
So to Barbara's point, the budgeted amount is the same.
Yes.
But actually is spent this is so far over the best estimate, but it's likely to go higher for this current fiscal
year. It's as long as I've been on this, it's always been at 50. It leaves cushion for unexpected work needed in the woods and other projects. All right, that is parks. Any other questions? Recreation. All righty. All right. We've got summer in the parks, pretty much expenses holding the same. And the clay court maintenance, that's the 2 youngest workers in town that keep that clay court playable throughout the summer. And the play season went a little longer, and we'll talk a little bit about trying to get it going a little earlier. Anyway, the estimate for salaries is higher than budget. It's just the way it's played out based on the need for the workers. But we really don't buy supplies, so I'm not that worried about it. But so we're going to go with the same for next year.
So Jean, where is the $4,000 for?
Right, yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Oh, you will? Okay, okay.
Yeah. If you get to Music Weekend, a lot of these numbers the rec committee provided.
Mhm.
Some, Eva, you might see got knocked down a tiny bit. That was per discussion. John's opinion was to knock a few things down a bit. And just for Eva's edification, you'll see that we kept the 1,000 in family programs, and instead of merging it with the Halloween.
I see.
It's there, but it just made sense since you're not really sure whether you're going to do that or not. Just keep it in family programs. There we go. We don't need to worry about the 150th celebration anymore, but
we have to worry about Circle Fest.
You better tell Meredith that we're not worrying about the 150th. She's
yeah,
still
well,
planning more activities.
Well,
Yes.
no, you see line item here, 225.
yeah, we're gonna have it. We're gonna do it again, but it's gonna be much
Yeah.
cheaper this time.
I put it in a line for the 151st.
We
so-
were trying to put some levity in here, so that will come out. It was for tonight's levity. You won't see it in April. And yeah, Circle Fest has been, we gave a bump up for this year's, which will happen, what is that, in May?
Yep, Memorial Weekend, 25th.
And the
This
council.
is one of those. This is one of those events that general consensus is in favor of inviting our neighbors, neighboring communities, and the budget reflects the
The
potential.
1,500, so that would be May of 2025.
It actually reflects the fact that there's going to be a lot more music than there has been in the past. And,
Oh,
and our neighbor. And yes, we're making it international.
What are you charging for your streaming streaming?
No, it's $1,000 to rent my porch. That's all.
Yeah.
And then,
That's
then
what I
you
thought.
have to plug in the electricity. That's like $3.
Yeah.
And you're paying musicians in
Right.
2025.
Well, next year. This year,
Yeah,
it's all
next
free.
year.
Yeah, it's all
Mhm.
volunteers this year.
Mm-hmm. And you'll see we've created a new item, playground refurbishment. We'll spend some money on that this fiscal year, and proposed for 5,000 in the coming fiscal year.
Okay, this is to cover the non-equipment related playground expenses that I've seen being bandied around, such as any ADA accessibility improvements, whatever, mulch improvements, whatever that aren't actually a playground equipment, which is down here under equipment, and of course is a
Like
lot.
all the picnic tables all have to be refurbished. That's going to cost some bucks.
Yeah.
Things
So, so those are the amounts John and I thought would cover it. That's up for debate, I guess. And the new playground equipment, you'll see note 13. Eva's gonna put together application to program open space to try and get some help on this, so that if that comes in, that will minimize
No,
so
that's not right.
okay,
Well,
thought that's what Eva's note had said, so I wrote it that way.
I'm gonna use the word may reduce town expense. So
Instead of
playground
will.
equipment is expensive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, I put the May
Put
in.
in 35 with a guesstimate that would buy one piece of expensive equipment. And yeah, program open space, if the equipment we think we want to put in is 40, and therefore we want to match town expenses. It could be only 20 out of our budget, because we'll have some outside contribution to it. But since we don't know whether that will happen, we're keeping it up high enough to purchase the piece of equipment at an estimated 35.
Well, are we,
Right. Yeah.
are we gonna apply for funding through open space? Is that like,
That's the
who made that
plan.
decision?
When when is
we-
that due?
It's end of May, I believe.
End of May, okay.
So that means that we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back to allowing the county to schedule our fields and things.
No, because this doesn't have anything to do with the fields. This is having to do with the playground.
Are you
I think-
sure? Because
Yes.
because that was the problem before. I just want to make
That's
sure.
because the program open space money, as far as I understand, was used to purchase the soccer goals.
No, we had the soccer goals had been there for 40 years. I mean, we should just make sure that that's not the case, where we're getting ourselves in a very controversial
I mean, it's
situation.
well, we can talk about it later, but I think it's okay. And there's also, from what I've heard, it's very difficult to even get the funds. So which is why we put in the 35. So if we don't get the matching funds, we'll still be able to do something. So
Okay, so I just want to make it clear that, and this is a council meeting, that should be discussed. We shouldn't just arbitrarily go and enroll in something that's going to get us in trouble.
But I guess, I mean, the thing is we have money, the town put, there's money in there that's allocated for the town, and it's a public playground, and it's money for a public space, improvement for public space. So we can talk about it at another time. I'm not exactly sure I understand all of the issues.
Peter, that discussion was what, 10 years? It's more than 10 years old, 12 years old. Money was accepted for playground equipment in 2014. That was the last, according to Mary's records, the last time we accepted money. But that was also the last time we put any equipment in. So, yeah, so I mean, this will be that question is of greater interest than just program open space funds. And the Woodward Park is not closed to outside use in any sense. So any perceptions to the contrary, just like our
And the county
are not.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, can't tell. The county never scheduled anything. That we took care of that scheduling. Peter.
It's not the county, it's the state.
What, for all those soccer games? The county used our soccer.
That was not county.
No, Peter, no, it was our.
Never.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the way I understood it. I would assume you would know, Kathy.
No, I could show you if you want to see the paperwork.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Certainly, while I was mayor, there was permitting. People had to apply to not the county, but actual groups. All of our rules for permitting had to do with groups, had nothing to do with the county.
Now, there were some large games that happened.
Yeah, but
that people might have thought the county scheduled them, but they did not.
All right.
Okay, do we want to talk about historic preservation now? We're done with the parks and recreation. Really virtually no change there. I noticed in Bob's, I see he's not still in the meeting. I just checked. His budget request did not include line 242. I might double check with him, just make sure he didn't just sort of forget it.
Oh, that's a done deal.
Okay.
Registry update. Yeah.
The lake, pretty much the same. We in RASIC, this is the requested budget. And then you get down into the insurance miscellaneous, which,
We see note 14,
huh?
note 14.
Did I
Wait a
mess
second.
up? Did I mess up?
Yeah, education services, it's not 14,
It's 15.
here it is. Oh, you have two 14s.
Yes,
That's
I
ridiculous.
will change the second one to
This
a
14.
15. And the note will be a 15. Done.
Well, John, I would like to see this similar to what we're doing with the tree carving and make that clear, because this is something that for the DEI training, we didn't reject it, but we said we would discuss it, just like we're going to do with the
We're
tree carving.
discussing it at the next meeting. That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, you're right.
Budget,
Okay.
This is only a draft budget.
Yeah.
So-
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just want to make it clear that with the tree carving.
I do want to just make sure the council is okay with line 270. We have traditionally given a $500 donation to the fire department. I'm suggesting to up it, given how it's been at 500 for many years, and it might be time. That was my idea. So if anybody prefers to keep it at 500, we can do that.
I like increasing it. It sounds good.
So you get down to line 281, you'll see again, we've got total expenses without the expenses that will be paid for by the ARPA money. And then you have below the line there, what total expenses would be with paying for the that which is paid for by ARPA.
Can you explain the George Payne Memorial Fund? I'm not sure what that is.
So money was donated, and some of it years ago, and it's for trees in certain ways. Most of it was spent, but the remainder was not spent. But we really can't spend it without somebody, his son, authorizing that we spend that money. So it's put in the budget, assuming we'll get that approval. But it requires, I think it's Georgette communicating with him and trying to get that spent this
Okay,
year.
thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it'll happen by the end of this fiscal year, but anyway, that's what that's about. There's a Nico's fund as well that's up higher up there. It's the same concept. It was donated for a certain purpose. We can't just go spend it. So we have to get approval by the parties that control the money or control the restriction. And you'll see the interfund transfer at the very bottom there before the notes. Last year we bumped it to 30,000. John, I'm down on line 286. We're going to keep that at 30,000 again. It was bumped up last year from 20 to 30, so we'll just keep it at 30.
Okay.
You want to do the capital improvements or the financial
Yeah,
plan
no, but
next?
let's go back up to the top, which we didn't discuss.
Okay.
And that's this use of reserves. So as usual, just reviewing the current fiscal year, the budget called for expenditures of 708. I'm sorry. It called for expenditures of $708,000. In order to, since our revenue fell short of that, which is everything except this use of reserves line, there's a use of reserves to make up the difference. So then you go to the estimated to the end of the fiscal year, which is only $519,000 estimated at this point. So that means that number has to be changed, the use of reserves. In fact, it's so different that the reserves go up by $230,000 because we underspent by this large amount, this $200,000. So for the new budget, there is also a contingency amount. I'm not a contingency, a use of reserves in order to account for this expense, the 787, which is higher than they budgeted for this year. The reasons for that, we went through a few of the reasons for that. Stormwater expenses and a few other items as to why.
Playground, yeah, the playground and stormwater.
Yeah, the playground equipment that falls into this. So in fact, we're not really, where we're spending the extra money is pretty well defined. But the use of reserves is again would require $100,000.
And John, I recalculated what it should be now that we've tweaked the expenses and revenue a bit. It's 107,873. I've made it on my copy here.
I'm not going to change it because you'll provide a new copy. So
yeah.
Okay, so that's the bottom line, and now we'll go on to the fund balances, which will address these reserves over time. So I'm going to close this out, and
you want the financial plan,
right?
Yeah.
Was that part of that? It was. Yeah.
You did not get an Excel for that. You got a PDF.
Oh, I know. I'm looking at the wrong folder.
Mm-hmm.
I can back off to the right folder. There we go.
I'm using a slightly different format than you saw last year for the financial plan, but you have seen this format before during the year. So this is vertically the different funds that the town has. And I have projected what I think on line 11, the anticipated year-end fiscal 24 year-end fund balances, what they will be, as well as then taking and the budgeted numbers for revenue expenses. I will need to tweak these for any changes we've made to the budget. So keep that in mind, but they're not that far off. Peter, to answer your question about the highway user revenue, if you look in the assigned funds for the road fund, in that kind of teal colored, this is, you asked the question about it rolling. You can see that it is. We hadn't, up until this year, we didn't have a lot of snow events, and we didn't spend as much on like speed bumps and that kind of thing. And so we spent less than our budget on the categories that go into this number. There's a certain number of categories of our expenses that we can apply against this revenue. Last year we ended up with about, I think it was about 15,000 surplus. And I'm projecting it'll go up to 21 by the end of this fiscal year. So yes, there's an extra 21,000 that could be spent on the roads beyond what's in the budget. We're putting 60 in the budget, but we're budgeting that we will basically spend that full 60.
Right.
So it still stays at 21,000. I do have to report to the state every year what our surplus is. There's no time limit put on us using it, but
they want those funds accounted for. So.
They want them accounted for, yeah. So I just want everybody to be aware of the fact we are now building up an excess. We used to be in the negative, actually. When I took over, I looked at prior budgets and you know, it had not hugely in the negative, but
Well, I can state 20 years ago, it was much more in the positive.
okay. I
But
don't-
cost of road work was a lot less.
Yeah, road work is expensive, but you can see here, also in that kind of green color, the proposed transfer for what is border property acquisition reserve. We're building up a reserve there, 30,000 each year. Again, we've got Nico's Trees and George Payne, and we've got the ARPA funds that we hope to spend fully down in the coming fiscal year. And the unassigned is really what's remaining. So based on the budget and the pull from reserves, budgeted pull from reserves, you know, our unassigned fund balance drops a bit, not a lot, huge amount, but a bit. So.
Right.
So that is the financial plan. Any questions? Then we have the capital improvement plan.
I wish I had the Excel form, but I don't.
Oh, yeah.
But I can't make change. I can make changes, but that will look messy.
I'll make notes and make changes and send it out to you.
Okay, this is the capital improvement.
These are obviously the fiscal 25. We've talked about all that already. The 26, 27, 28. These are just Jean's ideas. Totally up for discussion. And these are all capital improvements, you know, things that are of a large nature, which really are accounted for, you know, as major additions to the infrastructure of the town in many ways.
Jean, the 35,000 max playground equipment for 25 and 27. What's the what is that?
So in fiscal 25, we just finished talking about that. That's buying new playground.
Oh, okay,
equipment, right? I put the word max in there because as we discussed, that would be the maximum. If there's no program open space money coming to help.
That's the one
That's
you
the max, yeah.
Yeah, got it.
I just assume, would we want to repeat that in a future year? I put that in there. That was just totally out of my own head. If we think we do, we want to put it in the plan.
Well,
Also-
so that's a good point. So Eva, you know, I know you have your survey. You've got lots of opinions about equipment, but you know, because we're getting a lot of town attention on the playground, it would be valuable to decide, you know, both for the coming year and for future years, what would be desirable. So I'm merely recommending that, you know, if there are several pieces of equipment or several things that ought to be done, that you can keep in mind it really would be an advantage for the proposal to include future years. Not that anybody, you know, it's once again, it's just a planning purpose. So
yeah,
Right.
and you could say, well, put that in fiscal 28 instead of 27. You know, I mean,
or 26. So yeah.
Yeah. So that is that one. You'll see lake dredging just keeps getting punted from year to year. Someday it'll happen. As well as the new bridge or lake dock and rebuilding the shed. Those just sort of keep shifting by years. Other than that, the storm drainage remediation on at the top, the big number in fiscal 25, that is combination of ARPA and that what was it, 39,000 where we're spending accumulated interest.
So, for next time when we actually, need to forward this budget to the town meeting, you might want to consider where this sort of, what other expenses, of course, all the committees hopefully have considered in their areas what's needed. But we don't, none of this commits anybody to anything. It just keeps on one page the kind of the capital expenses that the town may need to engage in. One thing that's not on here, for example, would be the lights. We have a lighting committee. They've been engaged with other municipalities in determining how Pepco, what the valuation of streetlights were a municipality actually to go ahead and buy them. Now they were directed. Pepco was a bunch of years, I don't know how many years ago, directed to allow municipalities to buy the streetlights. Turns out nobody's done that. The only ones who have done it is DC, and nothing. That's not Maryland. And part of the reason, the largest part of the reason nobody's bought their streetlights is because the valuation of this equipment. Pepco always used a ridiculous formula to arrive at a large expense. But in this last year, after a great deal of pressure, the agreement now is that the streetlights will be valued based on a formula that includes their age and depreciation value. So making the town streetlights not worth a whole lot, meaning if we could buy them. We're not talking about mega bucks, we're talking thousands.
Should we put
no, I'm just using this as an example. They didn't put it in here. Nothing's going to happen in the coming year. But that's the kind of thing that might, and nobody knows what number to put, Gene. So that's the other reason. Yeah, so those sorts of things we want to put into this capital expense just to keep everybody's, so we don't overlook something. We inevitably will, but hopefully we won't. At least anything we can foresee. At any time, there might be something we didn't foresee. But that's what it's about. And you can see that many of the items, if you look back at the previous capital plan or the current year's capital plan, we move all these items in and they go into the budget, and we'll see whether we actually expend them or not. So it's helpful to add, or subtract or move to out years, just like the lake committee pays attention to the lake. And if it doesn't need dredging, then it gets pushed out. But someday it's going to need dredging, and you can see that's no small expense. It's $60,000. So,
and it could be higher at this point. I think that number is an estimate from years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so much for the capital thing. All right, so that's the end of. Is this the end of the?
Yeah, it's just those three documents. Yeah.
All right. yeah, so, in April, on April 16th, I just want to anticipate a little bit. We have some must-do things. One is we must forward to the town meeting the town budget. So that will be a recommended tax rates and the expenditures, et cetera. And you can, adjustments will be, another chance to make adjustments.
And the ordinance, John, has to happen?
Yes, we'll introduce the ordinance, has to be introduced to because the state requires us to present the ordinance to establish our tax rate by ordinance. So that's the budget thing. The other thing, we're going to have the leaf contract, the leaf collection contract. Hopefully we can award that, adjust the budget accordingly. We are planning to discuss now the basic recommendations, the other 4 at that meeting. And there's something else, and the stormwater management thing, which there's been debate over some of the technical, what the best way to, what exactly to propose and how to get meaningful bids back on the work, which is why it's been languishing and not come back to the council, but it will come back in April, on April 16th. And that's off the top of my head what I can think of for April's meeting. Anybody wants to have any discussion at all about the budget items in your areas? Don't hesitate to talk to Jean or to talk to me. This is we call this the mayor's draft. The council's draft will be established when you guys vote on it, and will become the one that goes to the town meeting. Any questions?
No, I thought, Gene, great presentation and good slides, John.
We did a lot. Work through it. Okay.
Thank you, Gene. Great work.
Great.
All right. Well, we have no other business. The stormwater infrastructure is being deferred, so that's, even though it's sitting here I'm looking at it, it's gone. If there's any new business, now's the time to raise it for this meeting. Okay, if none, then I'll just remind everybody once again, our next meeting is Tuesday, April 16th. And entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will. Mary.
Mary, you've been so
I
quiet.
already did.
Glad to contribute.
Yeah, good. All right. So then adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.